Being with what's real. Mm. I'm Rick from thrivingnow.com, and I'm here with co-creator Kathy from the Intimacy Dojo. Hi, Kathy.
Hey, it's good to be here. Happy Saturday to all of you.
Yeah, if you could speak up just a little.
Oh, sure. I can
Be great.
also move my mic a little closer.
Yes,
That
thank
might
you.
help too.
Yeah. So you introduced me recently to Susan Campbell,
She's amazing.
and I agree. And one of the things that she talks about saying what's real and being real, getting real. Those are two of her books.
My book is not near me, so I can't hold it up, but they're excellent books.
We're going to include links to those books with the replay. I wanted to say that as I was as I was going through her material, feeling into like being with what is, the realness, it interweaves with, I think, the core of EFT tapping about acceptance.
Start where you are.
Start where you are. And so today we're going to be exploring tuning into what's real and what's noise, what's real and what's imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And our imagination is real for us. If I'm imagining that I'm going to be broke tomorrow or next month or the end of the year, by the end of the year, or I imagine that I'm not going to be able to pay my taxes or whatever, imagine that someone is angry at me, that's something that's in my energy field.
And we can steer towards it. I still remember
what do you mean?
Am I still too quiet? Is that better?
Good. I said, what did you mean by steer towards?
So my sister, I go back to this analogy a lot because it really struck home for me then. And it seems like my sister was driving. There were 2 lanes. She was learning to drive. And so she was very nervous about it. And there were 2 lanes going each direction. And this black cat was running across all 4 lanes. And she was so scared of hitting it that she was focused. She was just looking at it, and she actually steered towards the cat because she was so focused on that, because she was so afraid of hitting it that she was actually driving right at the cat. So it's like sometimes we're so afraid of seeing or doing, we're so focused on it. I certainly have fingers pointing back to me. We actually make sure it happens right now. Mm. And sometimes the anxiety of dreading it, it's just like, I'm just going to do it and get it over with.
So being with what's real. As each of us who are here, I'm going to invite you to open up your little chat window. And if there's something that you want to share, to use the chat window today. There might be also time that we're going to be calling people forward. As you think about just being with something that's real in your life, what comes up for you? What thoughts, what concerns, fears, enthusiasms?
One of the things I loved about Susan's book is she talks about it in a very gentle way. It's like we all do these things. It's not anyone's bad if we avoid or pretend, or like everybody does this stuff all the time. It's more about noticing it sooner, because when we're in pretend or we're avoiding, we're not being real. There's a whole list of different things that we do to avoid the feelings we're having or what is in front of us. But we have a lot more power and control when we step into the now. So if I'm very, very worried about not paying my bills and I'm distracting myself from it by eating or talking to my friends or blaming someone else, I'm not actually able to deal with the actual problem that's in front of me. And I'm not actually looking for solutions for it. I'm trying to avoid the feeling I have in my body. So the more we can just be with those feelings as they come up and just go, wow, this sucks, and I can feel it, and I can Now, okay, what can I actually do about this versus how can I avoid? I think a lot of people will soothe each other in ways that aren't useful. Where can I try to soothe to help people calm down enough to actually take information in? But I have friends that um, I recently went through a lot of change, and someone was, some people blame the entity that caused the change. Some people are like, "Oh, you're great, you'll be fine, you don't have to worry." It's not really being with me in the moment, where it's kind of messy. Like sometimes in the moment is messy. We have to step into the swamp as opposed to kind of huddling on a little hummock in the swamp and pretending we're not in a swamp. We have to step in the swamp to get out of the swamp, if that makes sense, to go anywhere.
As I was listening to you, you used the term avoid, 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 avoid. I think that that's where I'd like to start with
Yeah.
some tapping. Um, and whatever's coming up for people, the chat window. Thank you. I see one.
And Jean used the word avoid several times too. So we're in it together, Jean. I avoided going to the dentist. It was harder to avoid than just going and taking care of the pain. It was more tiring trying to avoid it. And that's true. It takes up so much energy that if we go back to Abraham Hicks and they talk about using if we have a big beach ball and we're trying to keep it beneath the surface of the water, if we're swimming and we have this beach ball and we're trying to pretend it's not there, it takes a great amount of attention and focus and balancing to keep it below the water and pretend it's not there, rather than like, oh, I have a beach ball, what do I want to do with this beach ball? And I think the problem is many of us just didn't have skills when we were little. Like we didn't have skills, we didn't have experience, and our parents didn't have the skills to teach us. So the best solution was we're going to pack it in the back room and we're all going to pretend it doesn't exist. And unfortunately, those skills get ingrained, and the worn pathways are the easiest ones. So now, when we might be able to easily deal with some of the problems, we're probably still like putting them in the back room and closing them off because our brain thinks that will keep us safe. And that's not always the case. Should we do some tapping on avoiding?
Yeah, so tune in if you want to. What's something that you're avoiding being with? And notice first how your body is responding. The raw reaction in your body as you tune in to that which you're avoiding being with. If it's useful to you, notice how intense it is. Knowing that intensity doesn't necessarily correlate well with resistance, we can be so good at avoiding the feeling that, oh, it's only a 2, it's only a 4, it's only a 7.
Could we just start by tapping on I don't want to feel what's there? I mean, the whole reason we're avoiding is because we have a belief that that feeling will be too much for us.
Go
So,
ahead and lead us with that.
okay. So take a nice deep breath. Feel your feet on the floor, your butt in the chair, karate chop. The whole point of avoiding
The whole point of avoiding
is so I don't have to feel what's going on in my body.
so I don't have to feel what's going on in my body.
Why are you trying to make me feel this?
Why are you trying to make me feel this?
It doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good.
And I don't want to be here.
And I don't want to be here.
You're mean.
You're mean.
I don't want to feel this.
I do not want to feel this feeling.
I just want to pretend everything's okay.
I just want to pretend everything's okay.
Top of that, I don't want to feel it.
I don't want to feel it.
Eyebrow, and you can't make me.
And you can't make me.
Side of the eye, I've got really good defense mechanisms.
I've got really good defense mechanisms.
Under the eye, I can avoid with the best of them.
I can avoid with the best of them.
Under the nose, I can go shopping.
I can go shopping.
Chin, I can obsess about other things.
I can obsess about other things.
Collarbone, I might eat some chocolate cake.
I might eat some chocolate cake.
Under the arm, I might bitch or gossip about
I
somebody.
might bitch or gossip about somebody.
Top of the head, and I certainly can blame those people.
And I can certainly blame those people.
Eyebrow, but the truth is, I'm still actually feeling those things.
But the truth is, I'm still actually feeling those things,
Side of the eye, I'm just not dealing with them.
just not dealing with them.
Under the eye, and when I was little, distraction was brilliant.
And when I was little, distraction was brilliant.
Under the nose, because I didn't have the skills or the resources to deal with it.
I did not have the skills and resources to deal with it.
And thank God I'm an adult now.
Thank God I'm an adult now.
Collarbone, I can learn these skills.
I can learn these skills.
Under the arm, I can get the resources.
I can get the resources.
Top of the head, I can build up the muscles to feeling these feelings.
I can build up the muscles to feeling these feelings.
Take a nice, slow, deep breath. And one of the things I like to do for myself, we do it on calls sometimes, is rather than saying I have to feel these feelings, let's feel them for 10 seconds or 30 seconds. Sometimes when we tell our brain we have to feel that, our brain takes that as I will feel this bad forever for the rest of my life. I know that every time I get upset, every time I get you think I'm 51, I've been doing this work forever. You would think I would realize that these feelings pass, but in the midst of it, when it's feeling bad, it always feels like it's going to last forever, even if it's only a minute or 2 minutes. So sometimes putting that time constraint, I'm going to feel it for 10 seconds and just do a little bit of tapping can help step into it. So invite you, just like Rick said, to step in and just feel for a second what you're feeling in your body. What is it that you're trying to avoid?
So I'll start the 10 seconds now. Stop. And just come back to present. Feel your feet on the ground. Take a breath. And see if something different too came up. Sometimes, like Kathy said, allowing ourselves to feel something for a short time, like 10 seconds, can allow us to touch on some feeling that might be more intense, more scary if we were going to be diving into it. For me, for example, I had been feeling kind of frustrated and sad, but with 10 seconds, I could feel how angry I am. And that's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised at how much I have this pressure, like a sick pressure in my throat. I think I'm feeling really angry, sad mixed together in my throat and the back of my neck. And then my solar plexus is just feeling kind of swirly. I don't know what the word is for it, but it's just not calm and relaxed.
Okay.
And I like counting off the time.
So let's just quietly, each of us, tuning into just the emotional energy. Like for me, is this anger, side of the eye. Kathy, what was it for you? Swirly,
Pressure.
sad, pressure. We're just going through the tapping points. Don't even have to go back into it. Oh, there's that feeling there.
There's that feeling there.
There's that feeling there.
There's that feeling there.
Of course, I want to avoid that feeling.
Of course, I want to avoid that feeling.
Under the eye. Whew. Got a whiff of that feeling.
Got a whiff of that feeling.
Nose. P-U.
P-U.
Chin. Don't like that feeling.
Do not like that feeling.
Of course, I avoid that feeling.
Of course, I avoid that feeling.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
I accept myself and where I am right now.
I accept myself and where I am right now.
So being with what's real, I have a feeling. I want to avoid it. That's real. This is fundamentally what we're talking about in this case. Oh, there's this feeling. There's some avoidance, resistance, push away. That's where it is. And I believe with all my heart that if we can acknowledge that it is already changed. Because if I'm avoiding it and not even being aware or true to myself that I'm avoiding it, there's a kind of inner secret tension, corrosive tension that occurs that makes
Mm-hmm.
it something that um, continues to be active, more active.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a certain extent. We may have a belief that we can't handle that and we avoid it, so we're not handling it. So it just kind of teaches us we can't handle it, and it often it will build up more and more, and so it becomes bigger and bigger. We're just teaching ourselves that we can't deal with it. Versus if we can do the 10-second, I'm with my emotions for 10 seconds, I'm actually teaching the opposite. I'm teaching my system, wow, this feels like crap, and it just feels like crap. There's not actually an alligator gnawing off my leg. It just feels that bad. It's a
Mhm.
feeling, and if I can be with those emotions, they actually can process a little bit, so they're not overwhelming. The basket gets less full, and I've let some of the sensation go, and I'm left with the ability to take some of the actions that might help. And so we're building up those muscles versus just saying, "Oh, I can't get off the couch."
I'm drawn to do another 10 seconds. Now,
Yeah,
I'm also
guys,
drawn
game.
to offer that, hey, if you want to avoid by looking around the room because you've already got enough information for you, or you want to just, you know, twiddle your thumbs or whatever, that's cool. So we're going to come up here on another 10 seconds, and I'm going to touch on that thing again because I feel like I want to know. So ready now. Now. Okay. Deep breath. You can stomp your feet a little bit or wiggle your toes, maybe squeeze, use by squeezing your body, you come back in to now feel the sensation. And haven't, if you decided to take another whiff or feel into it, has something changed about it? You are welcome to put that in the chat window. Um, Kathy, did anything change for you?
I was surprised at how much changed for me, actually. Just having done that 10 seconds of feeling it, being with my body, and then the tapping, my neck still has some pressure, but it's gone down maybe from an 8 to a 5. And the front of my throat feels so much more open. It's maybe a 1 or 2. And my solar plexus feels like maybe a 3. Like it was pretty loud before. So I'm surprised at how much it shifted.
Thank you. For me, it's more intense, but it's different. It's
Um,
like, well, yeah, I'm angry. That's sort of like, that has that, well, yeah, I'm angry. What rose was, I have such intense desire around this that it's uncomfortable. My desire itself is uncomfortable. Jean said,
yeah.
mine is more intense, and I have this feeling I want to just go to sleep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Sleep is a great way to avoid stuff.
and also to process, it can do a lot
Yes.
of things. Yeah. I have these feelings about
I
this,
have these feelings.
and I'm being with it
And I mean with it
in little short doses,
in little short doses.
just enough to get information.
Just enough to get information.
And I still feel it,
I still feel it.
and it's okay.
And it's okay.
I can be with this.
I can be with this.
It's uncomfortable,
It is really uncomfortable.
but it might be doable too.
It might be doable too.
Okay. Coming back in the body, notice, let gravity do a little work. Just let it relax some of your tissue.
And if you can, just appreciate yourself. Like you're here, you showed up. More and more I'm seeing that the it's the small decisions we make and that the opting in and not choosing to opt out, that's where our life path comes from. And the fact that you showed up here and you're willing to experiment with this and step into it a little bit, it's changing the trajectory, the little things. It's building that muscle and that confidence. And it's really easy to say, no, I'll do it later. It's really easy to say, this is too hard. I'm never going to do this. And we get to opt out. Like there's days when I'm like, you know what, today I'm taking care of myself in other ways. We're not ever saying you have to jump in every time, but those times when you do step in for the 10 seconds or you do a little bit of tapping or you show up for the calls, you really are training your system in a different way than someone that's every time opts out, every time sits on the couch and watches TV or sits with their friends and bitches about how bad things are versus actually processing some of the feelings and learning new skills. So I want to honor each of you for being here. And if you just appreciate yourself, could we do 10 seconds of appreciation before we dive
Mm-hmm.
back in?
All right. So tuning in to something you appreciate about yourself and allowing it in. Begin. Thank you.
Nice. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So we got some nice comments from people. And Beth, the overwhelming layers, I totally get. Like I do that I want to get it all done now. And I think that's a lot of our culture.
Can we, I'm drawn to talk about what's real, the overwhelming layers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've noticed, that term, I don't know yet what it means to Beth precisely. When I hear overwhelming layers, my inner experience is that there can be something that's real, and then there's what I imagine it to
Yes.
mean.
Yes.
So my guitar is sitting there. I haven't picked up that guitar in October. It's the 19th. Now, what's real.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm angry about that. And the desire is really strong. What makes the layers overwhelming immediately, like I can make this really overwhelming by imagining it means that I'm not showing that I care about my music. I'm imagining that I'm never going to get good enough at this to enjoy it and be consistent. I imagine that there's this judgment about me that I can't do anything consistently, which then, like, there's all these
A
imaginings.
lot. Well, I'm like, wow, I can
Yeah,
feel that.
doesn't take much before it's like, where's the chocolate cake?
Exactly.
So part of what Susan talks about, and I believe it applies very strongly to our work with tapping. She talks about when you're communicating to someone who, let's say yeah, you said, hey, you haven't practiced your guitar in October. Let's say Kathy said that to me. I might say, hearing you say that, I feel angry. And I imagine that you're thinking that I'm just not taking my guitar seriously. Now, I don't know if that's true for Kathy.
Yeah.
By
And one thing
labeling
is
it
to
as
ask,
I imagine in
yeah.
that conversation, Susan's saying, you're staying on your side of the fence of saying, look, I imagine what's going on for this other person. Now, if I do that for myself, it's like, oh, I haven't picked up that particular guitar. I have two. I haven't picked up that particular guitar in October, and I imagine a bunch of things about it. That actually, those aren't what's real. It's not something that, I mean, those are imagined judgments and projections into the future, projections even onto me in a critical way that don't actually apply. I have strong this.
Yeah.
And so by by whether we're in connection with another person, I'm tapping now because this is hard for me because I'm not acknowledged as strongly how much imagining impacts me in my relationship to myself and my capacity to be with what's real with a kind of presence instead of avoiding.
And I love the fact we can ask each other. So if I said to Rick, "Oh, you haven't picked up that guitar, and it's in October," he could say, "I imagine you're judging me," and I could say, "No, I actually like maybe, yeah, I am judging you." And part of being real is just actually being truthful and not trying to couch it as nicely, but it might be something entirely different. As in, I imagine that you've been supporting me a lot, and you like I might be taking that as like I might be feeling guilty the fact I've been asking for a lot of support and Rick didn't get time to play his guitar. Or it might be that I was imagining that he has a new, he's moved to a new house and he has a little kid that he's taking care of. And it's like, I imagine that's really challenging. We have make up stories about other people all the time. And until we just are with our imagining, we don't know what's really true. And I love the other side of the net. Like my side of the net is what I can actually feel, like with my body, my senses, my eyes, what I can actually see. So any of the senses, what I can bring in, what I'm noticing in my body, or what I'm thinking. So I can tell Rick, I'm noticing your maroon shirt. I think it's maroon. And I'm imagining that it's very warm. That's staying on my side of the net because I'm imagining that it's very warm versus I see your, like, I'm really glad you wore a warm sweater today, would be kind of stepping on his side of the fence because I don't actually know it's warm. I don't know how he feels. And when people tell us how we're feeling, that can be really awkward and very uncomfortable. So if that makes sense, staying on my side of the net means I'm staying in what I can actually, what either I'm thinking, I'm noticing my thoughts are, my what I'm actually feeling or noticing in my senses, or what I'm sensing in my body. Like I'm feeling really tight in my shoulders when I see you haven't picked up the guitar because I'm imagining that I was too much work this month.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So, Beth said sometimes I ask, what is this reminding me of?
mm-hmm.
To me, that question is evocative of our past and the things that might be part of our reaction,
Right.
um, our avoidance and the like. Today, when feeling into what's real, one of the things that question can reveal is, oh, and there's this amplification or tamping down,
Mm-hmm.
amplify or tamping down of my feelings because of this stuff from my past,
Mm-hmm.
which is also, it was real then, but isn't actually in the right now, the what is, what can be pointed to, um, documented, described. And this is, reading Susan's books, one of the things that really strikes me is how rarely um, we actually are with what
Is in the
we,
moment.
how I'll stay on my side of the net. Um, I can have a really positive imagination, and I can have a really destructive, as in hopeless, suck the energy out of it in advance kind of imagination. Um, and to be with what is, being with what's real, that is grounding to me. often evokes some energies with my body that speaking to and tapping to, I think that's one of the things that's beautiful is I tune to something that's real, like, okay, division of motor vehicles,
Yep.
registration, property taxes. I don't know how much it is. I'm not exactly
Oh.
looking forward to it. Means going to get a safety inspection and emissions. So what is I have a letter from the DMV that I know is registration, safety inspection, things like that. I imagine it's going to be a pain in the ass. So we can tap on, this is such a pain in the ass. This is such a pain in the ass. This is such a pain in the ass. I imagine that this is going to be such a pain in the ass. I imagine that's going to be a pain in the ass. And I don't know, actually. That's an imagining.
It could be
What's
a
real
refund
is
from overpayment from last year.
I can't even imagine that because I can,
Okay.
without opening it, I'm 99% confident that it is time this year again to
Mhm.
do the registration process. And so look, it's coming up on time. I've got the paperwork. There's steps that need to be taken,
Mhm.
and that's what is. And I can be with that.
One of the things that's really, I've done some, gone to her workshop. She is 2 hours north of here in Sebastopol, and also done some sessions with her just because we really love her work. And one of the things that she's pointed out, and I've experienced over and over, is when we get in our imaginings, we stay mad. So if Rick didn't call me, say we agreed to talk at 10 this morning and he didn't call me, what happened is he didn't call me. And I can tap on, he didn't call me, and just kind of process that, whatever energy there is. And then but there's also my imaginings. And if I get sucked up in my imaginings too much, it just spins. And all of a sudden I'm like, I knew he didn't like me. I knew I was too much. I knew I wasn't lovable. Like all our old stories, we all have like gotcha stories that we go back to. And mine is that people don't like me because growing up I was way smarter than most of my friends and didn't really have, like, I wasn't close to them. And I was socially very, very awkward. So like my old stories come up and I'm spinning those about something that didn't even happen. So it's hard to clear it. Versus what actually happened is Rick didn't call, and I can have my feelings. I can be worried. I can, I hope he's okay. I can be scared that he doesn't love me anymore. I can be sad that he didn't call. I can be angry, whatever it is. If I can feel the emotions that are related to what actually happened, they're really quite quick to clear. But if I'm trying to clear my whole entire life history and every deep belief I had, then there's a problem. It's too much. It's like trying to clear everything at once. And it's all like kind of mushed up. It's like a traffic jam or a tangled yarn. It's very hard to clean up versus taking one thing. And the added benefit is if I just felt my feelings and did a little tapping, when I talked to Rick later, I could say, hey, Rick, I thought we had a call at 11. Or we agreed to have a call at 11. You didn't show up. What? Could you tell me what happened? I'm not like, you asshole, I told you didn't love me. I knew I was being too much. Why didn't you tell? And then he's having to deal with all this. And it might be that, oh, I thought we were going to meet tomorrow. Or I'm sorry, the little one flushed something down the toilet and water was everywhere. Like whatever it is, like I'm actually dealing with what I know about. And then I'm able to be with Rick in a much more calm, grounded way without having all the stories spewing up all over him. And I've done this to people. Like I've been, especially if it's like something I'm really nervous about, I could be like, I could see him and I'm like, or I might avoid him, or I might try to be really perfect and keep all those feelings in and pretend that it didn't matter to me, but then I'm not real with him. So Rick and I had a call this morning. We were talking about what we want to do next. And it was just really lovely because we were both sharing, like, this is what I'm noticing in my body. This is some of my fears. But we were just being real with each other and not trying to bottle it up. And then it just makes the connection so rich and so beautiful when we're not trying to hold that beach ball down,
Yeah.
or we're not so lost in our stories that we can't be with that other person.
And so my summary of what Kathy shared is what's real? What are the feelings that are coming up? Maybe that's the 10 seconds that you spend with it. Maybe it's longer. It's like, he didn't call me and I feel. And if there's imaginings, having the awareness that those are imaginings.
Yeah.
And I'm finding comfort in having that as not as a dismissive bucket, but as what's real is I have this imagining and I have this imagining. And it's an imagining. It's
Yeah.
not actually something that has been specifically given to me. And as an emotionally and energetically sensitive person, I'm finding that this grounds me in my truth. I feel this energy from my partner. I'm imagining that she's upset with me because there's upset. I mean, it's not like I'm not able to feel upset,
Right.
but it's an imagining. And one of the beautiful things is that when you get to a place where you acknowledge that you have this imagining, there's also room for it to be confirmed or to humbly recognize that just because I'm picking up these energies doesn't mean that I know the story. Um, it's been useful. It's helped me actually be more accurate in sensing things, because if the story, the imagining is so painful, like she's upset with me is painful. There feels like there's something. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this. What's real is I'm perceiving and feeling in my sensors an upset that's present. And I feel responsive. I feel a sense of um, wanting things to be different for her and for us. I can be with that realness a lot easier than I can be with something that's imaginary.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, in order to be with the realness, I may have to tap on several of, like, the other day, my partner, she put in the hard-boiled egg, the eggs to be hard-boiled. It takes 10 minutes, and you're supposed to release the steam and immediately put the eggs in an ice bath because that's what you do. An hour and 10 minutes later, I go down there, and the eggs are still in the Instant Pot.
Oh no.
And I opened one up, and she can't. And I said, "Hey, it looks like like the eggs were forgotten." I wasn't feeling at all upset. I opened one up, and it smelled like ferrous ferrous sulfide, which is what it is. That green stuff, it had been well overcooked, and I wasn't going to eat it. And she said, it's not like they go bad if you overcook them. And that, for some reason, that was a trigger for me. And I left to go get the boy. And what was interesting is that I had to stop for about 15 minutes and tap on what I imagined. I imagined that she didn't, this is stupid. I imagined that she didn't care about my well-being.
Oh.
I imagine that, she'd rather, that I have to eat that stinky shit than throw it out, because she doesn't like to waste food, and neither do I. And I had to, but by this really helped me. What was real is that I was imagining some things, and by labeling them as these are my imaginings, it helped my cognitive brain say, oh, that's That's creative. May not be accurate. Probably not. Doesn't really fit the rest of our information, you know. Considering how much she puts into your health and well-being and healthy
Yeah.
nourishment, doesn't really fit. But hey, you do. You have this imagining. Way to go, buddy. You're so clever. And then I could be with what's real. You know, the eggs were overcooked. My own sense in my body was that this was not something that I was going to eat. Um, I was able to relax, get clarity that I wanted to let it, just allow things to be for a while.
Mhm.
When I got home, I just did a quick Google search because I wanted to know for myself. And yes, when you overcook hard-boiled eggs, the sulfur in the egg whites and the iron in the egg yolks interact and create this ferrous sulfide, which has a lot of sulfur in it, and it's not a good it's not a good thing. It's not really good for your body.
Well, I'm
And I
imagining.
was able to communicate that to her later, and we threw the eggs out, and everything was. I was able to be with what's real, including the sex and food, and
Well,
so
hearing you say that, I'm imagining she might have felt embarrassed she forgot them and might have been feeling defensive, like, no, they're fine. Like, it's something I would like, if I felt like, oh, I screwed up, if I was blaming myself, I'd be like, oh, I think they're okay, just because I was trying to avoid feeling like I messed up. So, and I don't know what she was feeling, but we all have our own stories. And I think that the getting real aspects of it are, it can really separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. And I don't know about you guys, but I have so much chaff in my head. I think creative, smart people come together and we're like, we can come up with some real wild stories that have no relation to what the other person is doing. And one of the things that Rick and I want to do, and we believe that people that join us want to do, is have real relationships with each other. I want to be interacting with Rick or Noreen or Beth or like just the people in front of me, Jean, and um, I want that to be a real thing in front of me versus the story. We did that one call a while ago, and we're all wearing masks, and my mask is interacting with your mask, and my brain is interacting with the stories I'm telling me about you, and you're interacting to the stories you're telling about you, and like there's no actual connection, and then we wonder why we feel so isolated and alone. We don't feel fulfilled. And it's because there's no actual relationship going on. It's my brain is basically using you as a way to create story that's not based in like what's real here and now.
in this area of awareness and acceptance, in this fertile field of becoming aware of our physical reactions as we did by tuning into something that we were avoiding and allowing our awareness to extend out to what we imagine so that and so we have these body sensations, we have these emotions that are labels for their energy when they're in that state. We have these imagined thoughts, and then we also have things that we could say are describable. There's an envelope from the Division of Motor Vehicles North Carolina in my hand right now. I'm almost certain that it is the registration and represents a bill and some activities that I'm required to do in order to drive on the roads. And just saying that, there's the reality of that. And then there are some feelings that arise. But being grounded in the reality is empowering. It is what's real. It's what if I think about core energy, our core energy of thriving now means that I can be with what's real. I don't know anyone that is great at being what we imagine, what the imagined horrors that our brain can come up with.
Oh,
Woo!
it's like really
Imagine the horrors that can come from this. You
especially
know,
at 3 in the morning when my brain is chewing on stuff. Oh dear Lord.
right. I don't know anyone that as I look at my own sense of emotional freedom, it is narrowing things in some way down to this is what is, and I have emotions about it, this full spectrum. I can be sad, I can be pissed, I can be angry, I can be horny, I can be
Right.
eager, I can be avoidant, and I'm having this full spectrum of possibilities, sometimes more colors at once than I really was able to feel before. Like I'm sad and I'm eager at the same time. And by being able to be with that as a narrow, I can feel my core energy, the energy of us, our chi in our spine, in our core, in our dantian, in our pelvis, our creative center, the deep parts of our mind and our emotional system, the connection, our core connection to source and the resource that can come to us when we're in the now with something that's real. And we're we're with it, and that includes being with each other then too. These if it was just me being with me, it wouldn't be as juicy as noticing that when I'm doing this more inside myself, the people that I'm interacting with in a dear and sacred way are also being invited and into that same kind of them in their core of what's real for them, me in the core of what's real for me. We've got this we space that we share and what's real in there. And that's, mm, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, and just so you know, we're gonna, Susan is probably gonna, I know Noreen, you're sometimes not too far away, but I'm gonna try to have Susan here for a weekend, and I'm gonna try to entice Rick out to come for that as well. And she's also talked about doing some calls with us, so she really likes some of the, I think that the fundamentals of what we do with EFT is very similar. It's like getting into the body sensation, getting into the moment, being really honest and gentle with ourselves and each other. So I've had some really lovely interactions with her, and I'm just delighted. She's 78 and she's out there running events, and her partner has this amazing like Japanese garden, and just being with them just felt like, would you be my mom and dad, please?
I'm sure that's not the first time that they've
No, they get
heard
that a
that.
lot. But we were doing, a lot of us stayed at their place for the weekend, the Saturday night, and we were all just having just a delightful time just talking. We were playing, she has a card game called Getting Real where you ask each other questions. It's really fun. And we were playing it and we were laughing and giggling and just being sharing with these people we never met before that morning, and just sharing all these amazing things. And about 11:30 she came out and she goes, okay kids, we love that you're having fun, but you have to be quiet now. We're just like, mom yelled at us. It was just very sweet. So it's just been a really nice resource. So if you would just take a nice deep breath. And I think some of this feels really awkward because honestly, this is the opposite of what I was trained to do growing up. Over and over and over, maybe it was the 80s, maybe it was my family, maybe it's just society, but I thought if I pretended harder and acted differently and kept stuff down and tried to be someone I wasn't, that I would have the connections I wanted. And that's what I practiced for 20 some years. And I still practiced it after that, even though I was trying to learn something different, because one, it was so ingrained, and I don't think the resources I found did help me, but they didn't help me like completely release it. They didn't, like, I didn't have oh my God, I'm doing this totally wrong. So I'd love to just do a little tapping, because sometimes I think we beat ourselves up for not, like, we find this new thing that's pretty cool, but we're like, why am I not doing it all at once? Why am I still reverting? And I think Susan talks about, like, we all do get stuck in these patterns.
Yeah.
It's just a human nature thing. But the more we can clear them, the more we can just kind of go, oh, you know what? What I just said to you, if I had to do it over again, I'd say something different. I realized that I was really stuck in my fear. And my reaction of saying you should eat the eggs, it was about me feeling guilty. I'm making that up, but like we can clean it up, and then we start having deeper and more relaxed relations with each other. And I think as our brain starts seeing that working, and we start getting the actual rewards that we've been looking for, rather than the pretend platitudes, the pretend agreements that are a little bit satisfying because it's as close as we knew how to get to what we really wanted. That richness, like even the hour I had with Rick this morning was so, I feel so filled up and warm, and spending this time with each of you, there's a warmth that carries me through my day, even when I'm with people that aren't trying to be real. And then I start modeling a little bit more being real with people, and they're like, what is this thing that you are doing? And it's getting me responses from people that I'd always hope to have. So can we just do a little tapping on that, Rick?
That'd be great.
So nice deep breath. Karate chop. I don't want to do this thing.
Do I really have to do this thing?
It feels so awkward.
It feels so awkward.
My brain doesn't know how to do it.
My brain does not know how to do it.
I keep forgetting.
I keep forgetting.
And I think I do it really awkwardly.
And I think I do it really awkwardly.
Maybe that's the same as just learning something new.
Maybe that's the same as just learning something new.
Something that impacts a lot of my life.
Something that impacts a lot of my life.
Top of the head. I do want to be more real.
I do want to be more real.
Eyebrow. It doesn't work to pretend.
It does not work to pretend.
Side of the eye. And I've had decades of practicing at pretending.
And I've had decades of practicing pretending.
Under the eye. And maybe it's okay I revert to that sometimes.
And maybe it's okay I revert to that sometimes.
Under the nose. Hey, brain.
Hey, brain.
Chin. I get that.
I get that.
Collarbone. These are well-worn paths in your neurons.
These are well-worn paths in my neurons.
Under the arm. And it's okay to reroute these paths.
And it's okay to reroute these paths.
Top of the head. It can feel awkward.
It can feel so awkward.
And it's really worth it.
And it's really worth it.
Nice deep breath. So just notice what you're feeling. Can we do another 10 seconds, Rick? Just to tune into our bodies?
Sure. Beginning now. Thank you.
Nice. So my body definitely feels lighter just having done some tapping and being with people. I'm noticing my legs feel tight, and I think I need to stretch after the call. But how about you?
The guitar looks different.
Yeah.
I feel not just the desire for my creativity there, but my desire for this. Feels like my body can handle more being with the real depth of my desire for this kind of engagement with myself, with yourself, with each of us, and with the space that we co-create together. There's a very strong desire, and it feels like it can be held now.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's great. So Noreen says, I feel lighter too, more accepting of myself. Jean, I have more realizations. I find it much more effective. And I just was drawn to Beth. You said they're real layers, like figuring out my son's computer game because he's stuck with it, but he's never let me in. Like that's, it's trying to help with something that you don't have experience and you've been kind of I'm imagining that he kind of keeps you away from it. I could be wrong. But like dealing with just, I don't know. And I haven't, there's probably, I'm imagining that there's two sides to this. One, that he's kept you out and maybe it's something you wanted to be part of. And two, you're trying to fix something for him and you want to be super mom and be able to fix stuff. And if we can separate, if there's several aspects to it, if we can separate them and deal with each one separately, it's easier, because otherwise they're kind of pinging back and forth and they're not really clearing, versus just like, okay, what do I feel? I think, oh, he's not, I don't know how to do this. I'm supposed to be mom. I'm supposed to, and again, I'm imagining Beth, so we don't have time, unfortunately, but oh, perfect, good. If you can just like, super mom should be able to fix everything. Oh, I can't fix everything. Oh my God, wait, humans can't fix everything. Like just being with the emotions, not trying to move them, not trying to be any faster than we are. It can be really powerful. And then maybe when you cleared that, and there's also the aspect of maybe like, he's keeping me out. He's not letting me in to his game, and being with whatever emotions, and try to be with the one specific incident versus every time that he's ever kept you out will help it clear. It teaches your brain and your body how to process it better than trying to deal with every time he's ever kept me out, which immediately leads to every time every human has ever kept me out of like our entire echoes of our entire lives. And it's just too much and our system locks down, versus yesterday he wouldn't, or today he would not let me in. I asked to play with him or whatever, and he said no. So what you're actually dealing with is he said no. What do I feel about no just yesterday, or that one time? And feeling it and teaching our system how to clear it out. Radical honesty is a offshoot. Susan is Getting Real, and radical honesty is another branch of that same kind of Gestalt presencing. They've studied back and forth with each other. They're very friendly, but someone in the radical honesty world that I really respect, John Rosanio, calls it relationship as a meditation, relationship with yourself and with other people. And I am such a planner, and I'm like, I want Rick to do this, and I want him to respond this way to what I'm going to say, and I am outing myself, but it's so frustrating because when I'm with people, I'm trying to manipulate them to get the response I think will fulfill me, versus just being with what is there in the moment. Okay, like a meditation, like coming back to what is actually happening right now. Oh, he's looking at me with warm eyes and he has a soft smile on his face. I imagine he likes being here with me, and I could even ask. Or he's kind of concerned and looks frustrated, and I'm imagining that he's mad because I didn't do something I said I would do, and I could check with him, and he's like, no, I just noticed the guitar out of my corner of my eye, and I'm thinking about that. Or yes, I'm mad at you. I feel resentful that you didn't get that done. And we can just be with what's there. And with your son too, he said no. Okay, wow. If at some level, there's part of me that's like, that's really cool. Like, he has boundaries. You taught him well. Like, he gets to have his own thing. And sometimes when we have boundaries, we have to face the consequences of, I didn't let this person in. They don't know how to help me. Maybe I need to go to YouTube, or I have to figure it out myself, or I have to choose to let them in. So just a little bit of like synopsis of that hopefully helps Beth, and for anyone, like, try to break it down to what actually happened right now. This very small thing, and be with the emotions of that, and let our system learn that it can feel that feeling. And then it's surprising often when we don't try to make it pass how quickly it goes through.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. This has been real. And
it's been fun. Real fun.
Yeah. We're going to continue to explore this. We're very open to your feedback.
And if you have particular questions or things you'd love to see us talk about, we love to respond to people's asking. So please let us know.
Yeah, support@thrivingnow.com. Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
I'm feeling
Kathy.
a lot of love for all of you right now. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you all.
Bye. Mwah.